So imagine taking all the glitz and the yachts and, the mansions of mainstream hip hop.
Right, the whole fantasy.
Yeah, and just taking a giant hammer and smashing it. That is exactly what we are doing today.
It really is.
Because for today's deep dive, we are looking at the lyrics and the annotations you sent us for Trevor Russak's track Underground Hip Hop. And we're not doing a music review here.
No, definitely not.
Right, we are decoding this really raw, unfiltered look at reality and grief and just, survival for you, the listener.
Because Russak completely rejects that polished Hollywood blockbuster version of life.
Oh, 100%.
He just dismisses the fame and the, what he calls the quote-unquote bullshit, and even having a steady paycheck.
Wow.
Yeah, he elevates this true underground grind instead. It's like a gritty, handheld indie documentary of his actual life.
Which I love.
Yeah.
Because stripping away all that mainstream glamour really forces us to look at the actual street-level reality shaping this.
Yeah.
He details this strict survival code, like navigating dangerous neighborhoods, getting stopped by the cops, and just staying completely silent.
Right. The physical reality is grounded in these very mundane, sometimes uncomfortable details.
Yeah, for sure.
He talks about just recognizing faces in the streets and eating solely to put on weight and, drinking 40-ounce beers.
Okay, wait, let's pause on that drinking detail for a second.
Sure.
Because he says they drink what they can afford, but then he drops this line about hoarding bottles under their beds since they were kids.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It is incredibly heavy. Are we looking at kids just sneaking drinks to party, or is this like an early coping mechanism?
Well, if you look at the broader context of the lyrics, it is definitely a coping mechanism.
Really?
Yeah, he says they need these beers for tears because they are constantly mourning. The environment is so intense that it forces these kids to start numbing themselves.
Wow, before they even understand what trauma actually is.
Exactly. The hoarding isn't just teenage rebellion. It is a desperate attempt at self-medication.
And if they have been self-medicating since childhood, you really have to ask what kind of environment breaks a kid that early.
Right.
And he gives us the answer in the next verse. It looks like a neighborhood that is just filled with shrines and crosses for lives lost to violent crime.
It's a constant visual reminder.
Yeah, these shrines basically act like a community scrapbook of collective memory. They anchor all this shared trauma right there on the sidewalk for everyone to see.
And then he contrasts those violent, unnatural losses with a very different memory of death.
Oh, you mean loved ones dying of natural causes?
Exactly. He specifically remembers older guys with long white beards that, as a kid, he literally thought were Santa Claus.
That juxtaposition is just wild to me.
It is.
You have brutal street crime right next to the pure, unadulterated innocence of Santa Claus. Like, why put those two images side by side?
Because it reveals how the human brain survives extreme environments.
Okay, how so?
Well, by superimposing that childhood innocence over harsh realities, it creates a psychological buffer.
Ah, so it's cognitive dissonance protecting them.
Right. He mentions that sometimes they just get angry, but ultimately they find comfort in believing these loved ones are in heaven's bliss.
Right, I see.
It is a mental survival tactic to reconcile the violence around them with this desperate need for peace.
But I imagine carrying that kind of emotional baggage really takes a toll.
Oh, definitely.
Because Russak points out that while some of his friends are getting married and, stepping away from the savage lifestyle, he is staying single.
He does.
He claims he still mingles, but admits he cannot afford a ring. And I kind of have to push back here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't he just romanticizing the fact that he is broke? Like, it sounds a little bit like an excuse for failing to hit normal adult milestones.
I mean, it does sound like a defense mechanism at first glance. I get that.
Right.
But then he brings in this very specific Beatles reference, saying he loves Beats and Treats as much as Ringo.
Ah, Ringo Starr.
Yeah, so he is using self-aware humor to reclaim his agency here.
Okay, that makes sense.
He openly acknowledges the financial struggle, but he is showing it's a deliberate choice.
So he is sacrificing those traditional milestones, like buying a ring, because his ultimate devotion is to his craft.
Exactly, to the underground beats.
So what does this actually mean for you, the listener? Looking at your notes and these lyrics, we have traced Russak's journey
Yeah, we have.
from rejecting superficial fame to surviving the street-level grind, processing profound grief, and dedicating his life to the music.
Because art in this context is not just entertainment.
No, not at all.
It is a vital tool for resilience, for making sense of immense emotional weight.
which is incredibly powerful.
And success here is measured entirely by authenticity and the survival of the community, rather than, commercial metrics like money or fame.
Which leaves us with a really provocative thought to end on. If we adopted that exact same metric, valuing authenticity and community impact over a steady salary and recognition, how might that change the way we evaluate our own life's work?
It's a great question.
Right. Maybe you don't need a polished Hollywood blockbuster. Maybe a gritty, honest documentary of your own life is exactly what you should be aiming for.